This is square and star 12-inch finished block. Here's the diagram. And here's what 4 look like together with sashing and cornerstone. And let's go through the patches. A patch is a 1.5-inch finished square. We cut 2 inches squares. And here are the patches we need. Here's the AccuQuilt dies you can use. And these patches make the 4 patch units here in the corners. Our alternative is to do the strip piecing for the 4 patch units, and that's what I'm going to do in this demo. Our next patches are the B patch and the C and C reversed patch, and these are for the tri-rec units. And in this demo, I'm going to be demoing the tri-rec tool, but these are the AccuQuilt dies you can use to make the tri-rec unit or triangle and square, and there are 8 of them in this block. And patch D is a 1.5-inch by 3-inch finished rectangle, and we'll cut 3.5 inches by 2-inch rectangles, and we need 4 of those. And these rectangles go in I call this the framed square. So it's a square in the center and has a frame around it. And the rectangles are these D patches around it on the sides. And the E patch is a 3-inch finished square. We'll cut 3.5 inches square, and we just need 1. That is for the middle, the center. And our method for piecing this, we're going to piece the 4 patches first. Then we'll piece the tri-rec unit, or triangle and square. Then we'll piece the center framed square, and then put the block together. I've started including something else for you so you can understand how these blocks are put together. You can deconstruct a block that you see, and this block has a 4x4 grid. So that means it's 4 across and 4 down. And each of these grids has to be filled with a unit, or sometimes a unit can take up 2 grids or 3 grids or 4 grids. So we'll see how this goes. And I have this chart down here, and these are the 3 different units in this block. The 4 patch, we have 4 of them, and this is what it looks like. And this is the 12-inch block that we're doing today. And the 4 patches finish at 3 inches. Next one is the triangle and square. We have 8 of those, and here's what it looks like. And those finish at 3 inches. And then we have our framed square. Oh, and that's wrong. That needs to be just a 1. There's only 1 of the framed squares in here, and it's 6 inches. I've also included, if you want to enlarge the block or make the block smaller, here are some choices for you. 16-inch block, and here are the finished sizes of these units. 16-inch block, 8-inch block, and a 4-inch block. And so you can, if you want to do a different size, you just choose the size you want and make sure the unit has this measurement as its finished measurement. Now let's look at the fabrics I've chosen for this. I'm still using the Garden Gatherings collection from Moda. This is the center square in the very center. These are for the frames that go around the square. Here I've got 2 strips of fabric for our 4 patches, and I have 3 pieces of fabric here. This is for the triangles, and these 2 are put together, wrong sides together. These are for the rectangle part of the triangle and square. And we're going to do the triangle and square first. I'm using the tri-rec tool to do the triangles and square, or the tri-rec units. We want a 3-inch finished tri-rec unit. So we cut our strips 3.5 inches for the triangles and the rectangles. And we're going to use the 3.5-inch mark on the ruler. Now I need to have 8 of these units, so I need 8 triangles. That's the first one, and I find it easier to turn the fabric this way. Now I have my make 8 triangles. Next we're going to cut the rectangle part of the triangle and square. And I have 2 pieces of fabric here, wrong sides together, and we're going to be cutting 1 set at a time every time we make this cut. The first one I've already done. You lay it down here on the 3.5 inch mark, and then you cut it. On the edge of this, there's this little bitty nub right here you need to cut off. It looks insignificant, but it really helps you in the placement of your pieces. So cut that off, and now we have our first set. And this gets you your pieces like this. And then your triangle is sewn this way. On this one, I'm going to turn this way as well. So I have my first set cut. Now I need 7 more sets. To piece the tri-rex unit, you turn the piece over like this, and that little notch you cut out, you're going to line up with this edge of the triangle. So you have your notch lining up that edge, and then you have your side lining up with this edge. And we're going to start our stitching here and stitch a 1/4 inch all the way down. When you stitch it, your stitching should start right at this point here, and this should be a 1/4 inch here. So we've stitched all the way down to the bottom, and then when we open it up and press the seam open, it will look like this. This nub up here you have to cut off because it just gets in the way. And down here, if you'll notice down here, there's also a nub here that you can cut off. And this little angle for the rectangle fabric is sort of cut off a little bit. And that's just fine. It'll work out just fine. Now we take our other side, which is this, and we do basically the same thing. We're going to match down here, match the where you cut off the little blunt edge right here along this line, and then match the long side here. And we'll start stitching here. If you can see where this V is, right at that point should be your 1/4 inch, and you start there and stitch a 1/4 inch all the way down, and you should come off right here at this where this blunt edge was cut off. Here are 2 of them finished. This is what it looks like before the nubs are cut off. So you have a nub down here, and then the last one up here. So you trim those off, and here's what it looks like trimmed off. These little curved here, sort of curved edges here, are just fine. It doesn't matter. It'll be taken up in the seam allowance. It's just how it comes out. And then those are finished. So go ahead and make all 8 of those. To make the 4 patches, we take our 2 strips of fabric, sew them together lengthwise, and press the seam open. Then we're going to subcut these into 2-inch segments, and we'll need 8 2-inch segments. We have our 8 pieces now for our 4 patch units, and we're going to piece them together like this and make 4 of these 4 patch units. We have our triangle and square and our 4 patch units done. Now the final unit we have to make is this framed square. When I make units like this, I tend to always put the sides on first. There's no reason for it, it's just habit. So I'll sew these sides on first, and then at the same time I'm at the machine, I'll sew these 2 pieces together. So I'll sew the sides on, and then I'll sew these together. Now we'll sew these rows together. Here is our center framed square, and it's the last unit we need to prepare. Next, we'll just fill in our grid and put the block together. Now if we think about our little 4x4 grid that we're putting together, let's start in the center. And this takes up 4 of the grid units because it's bigger than all the others. And then our next piece will go, these pieces go like this. That's 2 grids, our grid spaces, and then this with the dark facing to the outside. So here are our 4 grid units across. And then let's put these down. And there's our 4x4 grid. Now I'll just sew these across here and across here. Sew these two together and these two together. Then sew to the sides and then sew the rows together. In this block, you have a lot of opportunities to match points. Here, here, all of those, where it meets these four corners and every time these meet. And if you need help with that, just stay tuned for a short little clip and I'll show you how you can do that. Thank you for watching. And you want to be sure you don't cut off any of these points. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And I've got the right sides together. So I want to match these two. Find this point right here and put your pin right in that point. You can see that. It's right in that point. And now pick this up and put it right in this point. Now put them together. And if you look at it from the top, you see the pin is going straight. It's perpendicular. If I scooch this over some and the pin is now at an angle, that's not right. Your points will not match. So scooch it over till it's going straight, perpendicular to the fabric, and it's coming straight out of the fabric this way. And then just put it into the fabric like that. Now when you're sewing this together, you'll start here on this edge, stitch 1/4 inch, and you're going to aim right for this point where the pin went into the fabric. What I normally do is I start pulling this pin out a little bit and then I'll just slow down a whole bunch and then stitch on it and take the pin out. You start stitching up here, 1/4 inch, and then just start aiming for this point where the pin goes in the fabric. Straighten out your edges and then start aiming for 1/4 inch and stitch all the way off. And that will get you your points matching without being cut off, like this right here. Okay, that's what you want.